Welcome back. We're here to discuss Monday night's massive game in the Premier League between Arsenal and Man City. Might as well start with the home side. Last Sunday, a fairly comfortable 2-0 win over Villa.
It was very comfortable for them, wasn't it? Everyone expected them to get the victory, and there's no real surprises for them. There's no real test for them. They've never really had to get out of second gear throughout the match. And Villa made a pretty bright start to the match, brighter than many would have been expecting. But then Alan Hutton gave away that stupid penalty the first 10 minutes, dragging Walcott to the ground. Bit of confusion initially. The referee appeared not to give it straight away, but then after a brief delay, about a few seconds, pointed to the spot. So Villa felt hard done by with that, but it was the correct decision in the end. And Giroud obviously stuck the penalty away, carried on his good scoring form, and then the second goal eventually arrived, probably a bit later than Arsenal would have wanted. They were in complete control. It was one-way traffic throughout the entire first half, and then when it did arrive, it was a counter-attack, which was a theme of Arsenal's game throughout that match. They always hit Villa on the break and looked dangerous every time they came forward on the break. Villa's defending for it was pretty poor. It turned into just one pass into Ozil, took out three Aston Villa defenders completely, and they didn't look like they wanted to get back really. It was a really poor defensive moment for Aston Villa, and then Ozil, obviously another assist for him, squaring it to Ramsey, who was man of the match, to stick it away. And Villa, they did improve in the second half. The first half, it was just poor from them. They didn't seem like they wanted to be there, didn't seem like they had any belief whatsoever. They did improve, but Arsenal were never truly tested. As I mentioned, they didn't have to get out of second gear. It was all very comfortable for them. Obviously, at the time, that took them top of the table. They seemed to be knocked off that by Leicester, again, after their victory over Chelsea on Monday night. So, still very much in the mix, and that was very comfortable. Just another victory to 3 points on the board. It wasn't a vintage display, but it's 3 points.
Yeah, just one clear City going into this, so two behind Leicester. They look fairly, in a good position in the league, but the big news with the club this week, that Champions League draw, drawing Barcelona, is the worst draw possible for them. And you think now the way Barcelona have been playing and the way they've dominated Arsenal. I think they've played Arsenal twice in the last 5 years in the knockout stages, and they've beaten them both times. And there's been you just don't really give Arsenal a chance in that game, do you? I mean, they could have got a much easier team than that, but to get Barcelona, you think that's probably their European hopes gone. I don't think many people would give them a chance against Barca. Especially the way they played in Europe this year, scraping through the group on the head-to-head record with that 3-0 win at Olympiacos. So I think they're almost definitely going to go out of the Champions League. But if anything, considering they are quite handily placed in the Premier League, Leicester still on top. We probably not expecting them to quite hold on to top spot there. City haven't been great. We know that Chelsea are really struggling. United, there's many teams not looking great this season. So it could be Arsenal's year to win their drought for a Premier League title. And I think maybe if they do go out of Europe, it might be a good thing for their Premier League hopes. They won't have to worry about Europe. Obviously they want to defend the FA Cup again this year, but they're out of the League Cup, and I think maybe if they go out of the Champions League and just focus on the Premier League, because if Wenger can win the Premier League again, especially with we know about all the injuries they've got, if he can do it this season, I know other teams haven't been as good, but if they can do it this year, maybe go out of the Champions League, but if they can win the Premier League, it would just be massive for them.
It would, and aside from that, the big blip in November, which seems to come every year, they have looked like arguably the most consistent team in the league, apart from Leicester, and we're still expecting them to drop off at some point. They may not in the end. They've done so well so far this season, but we are still expecting them to not really be title contenders just yet. Next few games might prove otherwise, but they have been one of the most consistent teams with that November side, so they'll be confident of putting in a good challenge for the title this season. First one in 11 years. It would be, of course, 12 years actually, wouldn't it? 2004 last time they won it, and at home especially, that's where the basis of their main. They've got the best away record at home as well, away record in the league as well, but at home they've been equally good. Since the opening day defeat to West Ham, they're unbeaten in 6, winning 4, drawing 2, and crucially they've got 3 of the next 4 Premier League games at home. Obviously this big one, this is a massive one. 6 points are really at the top of the table, and if they can get a victory here, we're going to talk about Man City's away form later. They'll go into this match as favourites. The form books suggest, with home and away form, suggest that Villa will Arsenal will win this one, and then coming up after that they've got Bournemouth and Newcastle, who a bit resurgent, 2 wins on the bounce for both of them, but Arsenal will still be expecting maximum points from there, and they've also got a trip to Southampton, who aren't in the best form either, so they've got some kind fixtures coming up after this one, and if they can get a victory in here as well, they may go into 2016, because Leicester have got some tough games coming up. They may go into 2016 top of the table, and the fans will start believing that the title wait is over.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance, and I think, like you say, they should start this game as slight favourites. I think City last week, they got a win as well, that win over Swansea, but it was far from convincing, wasn't it? They took the lead in the first half through Bonnie, and then they couldn't really get that second goal, which would have probably killed Swansea off, because Swansea obviously without their manager going into that game. But then Gomez scored the goal. Joe Hart will be angry about the way he conceded that, but it was a pretty good finish from him. And then on the 90th minute there, you think, God, they've really dropped 2 points there, and like many other teams last weekend, failing to win. But they did get the goal, big big slice of luck in that with Yaya Touré's shot hitting Iheanacho, looping into the net, and obviously 3 points the most important thing in that one. I think there was some interesting storylines going into that. I think De Bruyne, he was rested going into that. I think it was apparently fatigue. He apparently looked quite tired in the last couple of games, so he was rested. But since then, that last Leicester game to a Monday night game, they've had 9 days, gap between those two. So he should probably be fit for this one, and be one of the first times, that maybe him and Silva and Sterling and Aguero could be back as well. There's reports he's back in training. I mean, if Aguero can come back for this, it's huge. Company could be back as well. I think he's sort of more of a doubt Company, but if he can come back for this, Aguero and Company, it would just be massive for them, and that would give them a real boost coming into this, because even though last week's result wasn't great, those two players coming back would be massive.
Yeah, because they haven't been too convincing in recent weeks, have they? With those players missing, I think there was a stat about Company. I think in the games he has played, they've only conceded 1 goal. In the games he hasn't, they've conceded something like 18 or something. It's a massive difference between the two when he is playing and not. So he is a key player, and obviously we know how good Aguero is. He can snaffle up any chance that comes his way. He's a fantastic finisher. So getting those two back would be key, and key to get him back on form as well, because they, as I mentioned, they haven't been too convincing, and particularly away from home. They started well enough away from home, not won in 4 away games now, and not scored on the road in 2 months. They drew blanks at United, which is always a tough place to go with United's defensive record this season, but then Aston Villa and Stoke as well. 2 games, particularly Aston Villa, they would have fancied their chances of winning fairly comfortably. They probably should have won that. Aston Villa won fairly comfortably, but didn't get the victory, drew another blank. So away from home, things aren't great for them. They have got a tough run of fixtures coming up as well, in terms of away matches. Leicester, Watford and West Ham, all top 10 sides coming up, and then at home in that time they've got Everton and Crystal Palace as well. So they've got 5 matches against top 10 sides after Arsenal, and then Sunderland at home, which obviously you'd think is a bit of a banker, but then after that it's a tough run of fixtures. So things aren't looking straightforward for City. They're going to have a fight on their hands if they're going to, because they went into the season favourites for the title, and rightly so. For the opening weeks of the season, they looked like the team to take the title by storm. We were talking about them doing what Chelsea did last season, but that hasn't materialised really. If they can get a good run of results coming up in that run of fixtures, then they'll be a lot more confident.
I think we talked about Arsenal getting Barca and the fact they'll probably go out. I think City, they obviously got a much kinder draw. Dynamo Kiev is definitely one of the easiest teams they probably could have got in as finishing group winners. PSG were the only real tie they wanted to avoid, because they're in the same group as Juve anyway, and Chelsea got PSG, which obviously made City feel quite good. And I think, talking about Arsenal, how if they go out of the Champions League, it might help their title hopes. City will be the opposite. They'll be very confident beating Kiev, and then the lure of that first European title could distract them from the league. So that could probably play into Arsenal's hands as well. But back to this game, which way do you see it going?
It's a huge game, isn't it? It's a tough one to call, as always, between these two big teams, but I think I'm going to go for a home victory here. I think Arsenal might have enough about them to pick up a 3-2 victory.
3-2, a lot of goals, yeah. I see Arsenal winning by 1 as well, but I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. So both picking the Gunners to win this one. Thanks for joining us.